Hello, friends. My name is host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People, and I'm gonna
I'll be so glad when we don't have to do this anymore.
I'm gonna make an attempt at this video. But my mom here is in a chatty mood, and when she's in a chatty mood, then she will sometimes sort of carry on a little bit.
I don't mind if it doesn't go through at all.
I know you don't mind, Mom. Okay, so I'm gonna try to resume this thing here: self-development and life development and age, experience, environment, nature, will, etc. I almost want to not make this video because I had so much trouble with it last time I attempted it. And the reason I have so much trouble with it is because it has so much to do with emotion, I think, and having to process according to that. So
yeah, there's tons of pieces, and I think they chose.
For example,
Yeah.
the other day I was really thinking about, what Becky was saying about needing to make a choice going in, like this isn't something I necessarily have to continue to cope with. I'm not compelled to stay in a relationship. And it's important that I take serious consideration of the possibility that maybe what's best is outside of the relationship.
Yeah.
So this is a line of thinking that I've always generally rejected as contrary to a healthy relationship. That being in a healthy relationship means not really considering the possibility of splitting up and trying to work shit out if there's conflict and learning how to communicate effectively. At the end of the day, things, the way shit goes down in the world is very slabby, for me anyway.
It is for me too.
It is for you too, Mom? I
Yes.
believe it.
I want them to do it right the way they did many, many, many years before.
We all want that. This trip is aligned at a time when I'm separated from Kimberly and here living basically independently from her. And she called me right as I was waking up from a nap, and I didn't really talk. We didn't really have much to say because I was just still waking up, really. And it's an odd phenomenon, an odd experience, being freed somewhat from being a teammate. So I like to think of myself as a good teammate. Kimberly's a good teammate too. Parts of her engage in defensive behaviors sometimes that are contrary to the good of the team, maybe, or the good of either party in the team, frankly. But
Amazing.
so do I, no doubt.
And they always have trees around them, and they.
Yeah, those are fancy houses. She's looking at pictures right now of the real estate section of the paper where she's looking at various houses and like her San Marino and stuff. So the thing about life development and self-development, Kimberly and I both have one aspect of life development that's unattainable by people younger than us, namely years alive. Now, years alive means different things to different people depending on how those years go and their nature and such. So, if we really want to have any kind of comprehensive or pseudo-comprehensive or really meaningful at all calculation of what it means to have life development or self-development, then we've got to understand the self as being something that manifests in various relationships with time, basically. So the accrued learning of year over the course of years, which includes both good kinds of learning and bad kinds of learning. You acquire habits that are not necessarily good or desirable or in your interest, but nevertheless serve the self in some way. Experience can also train a person to be more effective at something that requires experience. So not everything requires experience, but lots of things do. And it's hard to quite, as an SI user myself, it's hard to imagine an NI frame where that experience aspect of things is kind of either unconscious or undervalued or unvalued. But for a lot of people it is, because NI is contrary to the experience frame as a understanding of life development, self-development. Although not so unconscious, I think, of any other aspect. I mean, it's in the same way that the SI self is kind of unconscious of the nature of a person being. What I mean there is, I guess, the person's nature as it links to a configural thing, like as it links to a type or something. Because there's nature born of experience, which I think SIUs will often misinterpret their nature to some extent as being born of their experience. That every way that they are is because of how their environment has impacted them. So, in some sense, an SI frame is one of less willful agency than is an NI frame. An SI frame's willful agency is directed ultimately towards the simplest route between to making your expectations reliably manifest, which is have expectations of that repetitive behaviors will produce the same outcomes over and over again, and limit those to the physical self, the animal self, eating, drinking, whatever. So that's like the simplest understanding of self as animal, perhaps. It has a limited amount of agency. Self as character is a self that has an abstract understanding of a person's will as an expression of their nature in their environment to create experience, and that's more of an NI frame, So, for me then, this chapter change where I'm here at my parents' house and where I'm spending a lot of time on my emotions and weighing emotional matters on emotional metrics, which is a separate issue. It's like experiencing emotions is one thing, but trying to make decisions or anything, trying to understand what one ought to do by understanding one's emotions, that's an entirely different matter and an entirely more impossible thing. The solace I take about the matter is that it still remains that for the vast majority of things in life, I am ill-advised to make decisions with my feelings. And at the same time, I recognize that I'm making some good decisions right now based on my feelings. And that I ought to be making the decisions I'm making on the metric that I'm making them on. So, I recognize in that regard the importance of acknowledging their role in decision making when appropriate. The odd question I find myself asking is, how appropriate is that to use in a relationship of the sorts that I'm having with Kimberly? And what would it mean? So the thing is, FI works both for and against the relationship. It's true that a lot of bad feelings emerge from that relationship for me. And it's also true that a lot of good feelings emerge from that relationship for me. And I have feelings to the grander narrative, which is one of things happening for a reason. And there's no doubt that on an NI level, Kimberly is. I'm destined. I feel so destined to be with Kimberly. I feel destined to learn everything I have to learn from the process of bridging our respective.
Well, the ones here is
Our respective experiences and understandings of the world. She and I have had experiences and understandings of the world that in some ways are very similar and in some ways are very different. And I can't imagine a circumstance that ultimately will coalesce into making me a more optimal self than following through on what.
well, right now, for example, Christine Quinn is the shoes.
What
the
will
show's
be
Bracelet provocateur playing cat.
will be which will be the last long relationship of my life, I'm convinced. I mean, both Kimberly and I are getting older, and health concerns may arise at some point. Neither of us are in perfect health. I'm probably in better health than Kimberly, but I've got my little issues too here and there. So, I guess the point of it is, it's not a place to use TI regardless. It's not a place to calculate what's fair all the time. And it's not a place really to use some kinds of TE either. It's not really a place to, or whatever you want to call this TI-TE hybrid thing where you weigh impacts against each other.
Well, that'll be, it's at least 2 hours.
You know, I told Kimberly early on in the relationship, you need to compare me against the alternatives, not against your ideal. Which, it still sounds like amazingly, simply good advice to me. But most people aren't doing that at all. They're comparing their experience against their expectations, which is different. It's more, well, I mean, it is an ideal, I guess. It depends what they expect, though. Their expectations are not always ideals, but they're compared against their expectations. Most people compare against their expectations. To some extent, all people do. I mean, you could say that I expect to be able to meaningfully compare against my alternatives and determine something. But it would be truer to say I expect the other person to do that because I plan to win that calculus, and I want that in my favor. In other words, I don't actually use the thing I want used myself, because I mean, I guess to some extent I do early on in a relationship, but then once I make a decision, I'm all in. It's the only way I've ever been about any relationship, and I remain all in. I've never been the person to leave. So there's something to be said for that. You got to be a person of. But the thing is, of course, I've always operated under the presumption that, well, I'm not going to leave, and I'm going to do everything I can to save the relationship. But if they won't be reasonable to some extent, then I'm going to start bringing the hammer. You know, like I will hammer them into submission with my argumentation until they stop fighting back and start working with me, and then we can make progress. Of course, that motion is doomed to fail every time, because it's like there's an intrinsic extrinsic motivation thing. People are always less intrinsically motivated when extrinsically motivated. It's a simple rule, and it's like 100% true all the time. People are less intrinsically motivated when they're extrinsically motivated. If you are drawing a little comic book and you're halfway through it and you're loving the process and enjoying this activity, and then somebody pays you all of a sudden to finish it, do the other half, you're all of a sudden not going to want to do it.
What's amazing to me, I look at these things like something in Sierra Madre.
If somebody threatens you, how much is the Sierra Madre house, Mom?
Well, the first one, for example, is $4,699. A lot size, 13,703, and then 4 bedrooms, and then 4.5 bathrooms. This must have been big.
About 500,000. Okay, that's not too bad for Sierra Madre.
And the year that was built was 1996.
Let me see.
Okay, it's fun to watch that.
I mean, property values in these various cities. No, this is 2.9 million. Yeah, okay, that's more like it. Okay, yeah, that would have been a very good price for this house in Sierra Madre.
This looks good. You may make it back home in the same Bermuda.
Bermuda, okay.
This is the only one I had.
Okay, thanks, Mom. Appreciate that. So.
Oh, and this was another one.
The thing is, at the end of the day, what does work is genuinely appreciating the person you're with for who they are, flaws and everything. It means genuinely responding to their expression of flaw as with compassion, acceptance, or curiosity. Curiosity is a weird one to respond to things with like that with. Let me talk a little bit now about youth. Young people in the modern world are different than old people in some regard. They've begun their life in an environment that was much more conducive to development quickly, especially for intuitives. The internet is an intuitive playground of sorts that allows people to, smart intuitives to develop as they see fit at their own pace. And that's what people need. They need the autonomy to make their own decisions with implicit motivations about what they want to learn and why they want to learn it and what they want to do and why they want to do it. And that's a challenging thing because people always have to balance between what they feel like doing in the moment, some sort of impulse or what you might call a poop gathering festival, and a longer term vision for the self. And firefighters are there to prioritize the short term vision of the self, which the concerns of which are reasonable enough. They are saying, okay, emergency, squirt water all over this thing. Yes, it will damage it, but less than the fire.
The water is there. If you want some more, it's right there.
No, I'm looking for the fly spotter because I let it fly in the house like an idiot. So, doing temporal bargaining stuff, managing your rewards, your escapes, your punishments of self and stuff. Managing those elements is a tricky business. The thing is, it doesn't always come from damage. A lot of times, it comes from nature that the firefighter is too active. Certainly mine was, because he was always putting out the fire of, well, I'm bored at the moment, or, well, I'm sober right now, which is annoying me, or I'm not totally feeling everything at the moment, so I need something else.
You're doing just fine, honest.
Thanks, Mom. I appreciate
You
it.
both look sort of alike if you look at it very carefully.
Me and who?
You and your brother.
I don't have a brother. I have a daughter. So, anyway, I was like, okay, so young people, like talking with Becky's been very revelatory to me, and I enjoy what she has to say. She's been texting me and stuff, and we're going to talk again soon. But at the moment, here at my mom's house, it's like it's not really possible. Well, I guess it is just as possible. We could have a three-person conversation. Me here, Cam at our house, and Becky wherever she is. She's in Canada somewhere, I think. Probably, she lives somewhere in the land of Sasquatches, Saskatchewan. That's my guess. If you ask me, guess a place in Canada where someone lives, I'm going to guess Saskatchewan every time. Or, what else is there in Canada? British Columbia.
It's cold at night.
It's cold at night.
Yeah. And they're very nice.
They are very nice.
They have a town there that's very pretty.
What's it called?
I don't know.
Canada Town?
No, it isn't called that. No.
Okay.
But he goes up to see them, but he realizes he's seeing his two women that are doing that, and they're going to get the pay right now.
I see.
And so they did.
Fascinating. Okay, so let me finish this up with things in the works. The point about that being is young people have further self-development, but remember that life development is not all good. So there's lots of...
That's easy to say.
Lots of bad learning happens with life development as well. So being young in that regard is being ahead is good, and remembering that shit can change on a dime is good too. And that's the truth. Shit can change on a dime, and it usually doesn't. Both those things are true. So it makes me a little jealous to have almost been born one generation too soon. And then again, I think I was born in the right generation, which is Generation X, which, it's like my self comprises my experience, and being an SI user, it's hard for me to imagine manifesting a self that isn't manifest of this experience, because obviously I haven't experienced other experiences. But I identified enough with my generation when I was young, and I identified with a disaffection or dissatisfaction with the normal expectations. Ours was one of the rare generations that was, I don't know if it was smaller than our parents' generation, probably not, but it was close. Anyway.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of things on this. And more
things in the works. I might have an interview tomorrow with Ben and DSP. I think I probably do, because I confirmed the time, and I think that I have to go check my email still. I got it this morning. I did a couple things. I took a nap. Now I feel a little bit more energized. What else is in the works? A 5K subscribers video, and 5K subscribers is coming up pretty quick. Another thing that's in the works is a video that's about YouTube. The 5K video is about YouTube and me, and what I've learned about YouTube, and what I've learned about myself from YouTube and stuff like that. Tournament videos will continue. I'm in this kind of limbo-y, weird state right now where I've got a lot of shit going on in my head and my heart, I guess. And I do shit like this. I'm slow getting the videos out. I'm gummed up my system is gummed up, and this is why you have to have a attentional configuration in part, because when you're trying to use attentional configurations that aren't naturally complementary, consciously or willfully or just unavoidably, depending on how you're doing it. It's like my FI, I'm somewhat consciously trying to attend to it, but it's like grasping at dust. I have no idea what the stuff, what I'm supposed to do with the stuff that I grabbed in my hand now, Okay, well, then your hand's dusty. And, well, I guess you're supposed to read the patterns of the dust or something. Who knows?
Because right now you can see that the mats and the pads are under her.
Those are instructions.
Well, they know what they're doing, and they're doing fine.
Yep. Okay. Typing videos progress probably in about 2 weeks, about the 23rd, 25th, somewhere around there. I'm going to sort of end this current chapter of malaise, and not really malaise, more like chapter of this subchapter of dormancy and or fallowness.
Look at that thing over there.
I'm fallow like a very, very, very candle tallow.
Because it will go when it wants.
I'm going to make a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to try to really push the typing's business. It's probably the most lucrative aspect of the channel right now, and the one that where I most earn the money too, in my opinion. It's like I think it's worth the money, so I don't feel bad about selling it. It's not just I'm not just saying fill out this thing on the internet and I'll send you a personalized report for $10. It's not scammy or anything. So anyway, I'm going to push that and try to get more people to give me a type one, pay me to type one, and that means I'm going to try to be making more videos that are a little bit more NI focused, a little less jargony, while at the same time trying to retain, trying to keep doing things that the existing audience wants to see, and generally make progress in the channel and be more outcome oriented, push a little harder. Right now I'm afforded a certain I have a certain amount of latitude that I might not normally have in terms of taking my time to, not taking my time, but there's not a pressing, I'm not currently there's not a current pressing need for me to maximize the kind of straight ahead work that I normally do, get a bunch of clients or find a bunch of hours or something.
I know.
So
they do that in the schools now.
Mm-hmm. As I'm getting deeper into the sort of family.
Well, it's hard on a family, and particularly if they've got little kids and women and
coffers.
Yeah.
As the family kind of begins to re-merge, I've been able to be a little bit less active than I might normally be on the regular job front, so it enables me to push this a little harder, and I do want to be, obviously.
This is an amazing thing that I can't believe they can put it this way and make it that good. The guy is the statue of Napoleon.
More financially successful than
in
ever.
Longwood House, residence of the former emperor until his death on May 5th, 1821.
That was an important date. His death on May 5th, 1821. Okay, so hopefully everybody processed all that as they see fit or not. I mean, it was another rambly videos. I struggle with dealing with things that involve a lot of emotion. But I'm grateful to have Becky out there willing to help me talk through some of this stuff, and talk with Kimberly as well. And I really do have a lot of faith in IFS. I put IFS. Internal family systems, not internal systems family. Eric. Lamo. I'm a lamo. Alright, well, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.